This here is going to be a video about how to find the base flood elevation when we're dealing with an elevation certificate. Just as an example, I picked a house or a property here along the Sangamon River in Mahomet. This one is 1516 River Bluff Drive. Like I said, picked this one mostly at random, simply because I know the Sangamon spreads out pretty far, and it's worth a good look on this. So let's say this person calls you up, wants a base flood. They hear from their hear from their insurance company that their premiums are going up, and they want to see if their house is in fact in the flood zone. It's actually a pretty good question. So if we go in and we turn on the flood zones here, you can see it comes up pretty close to the property. So there's a lot of people that would take this and say, yes, this is what I need. But what we know is we need to get the base flood elevation for the elevation certificate. So I've got the address here, 1516, whichever one this is, River Bluff Drive. My next move then is going to go over to the Map Service Center, FEMA Map Service Center, FEMA MSC. So here again, we're looking at, here's River Bluff Drive. I was able to get, when you get into this website, you put in the address, and I shot right over here. And what we have here is the map panel number for FEMA. This is going to be their firm number that they use to decide or to look at more specifically, because what happens is there's all of this area right here. This has been done in a detailed flood. Now in this particular property, as we look, we've actually got quite a few clues as what's going on for the base flood. We have a cross section that was done here, cross section E along the Sangamon River. That's an elevation of 682.3. We go upstream a little bit further, we have cross section F has 684.6. So if we can interpolate the distance between these two cross sections to the property, we can get um, the elevation that way. If we want not quite as accurate, we can see that our base flood elevation has a contour of 683 right here. Go upstream a little bit, we've got 684. That's okay, but that doesn't tell me a lot of what more I need. I think we can do a little bit better. So here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to shoot over and we're going to get the flood insurance study, the FIS. Now this one here is for Champaign County. This is the most effective one. And I actually grabbed this by coming in here. If we're at the MSC, uh, if you go here, you get the dynamic map, and I've already grabbed that. This is going to be the fermet. This has to be included with most flood certificate submittals. So this tells about where the property is and then where the flood zones come up to. But we can actually get the flood insurance study from this as well. Come up here, go to show all products, and then the next screen should pop up, and we can get the effective products FIS. We can download that, and that's what I have here. This is the flood insurance study. This is actually a detailed document about how the entire study was done, for how they got all those elevations, where they are, and everything else. So I mentioned something about the cross sections. Well, for Champaign County, there's a lot of streams that have base flood elevations, and that's what these are. For Boneyard Creek, all of these cross sections have BFEs at these here elevations. Okay, we're on the Sangamon River. If you remember, that was cross section E and cross section F right here. 682.3, 684.6. So we know we're going to be somewhere in between there. And we're actually going to see another way to find that same thing. I'm going to go to the river profile. All right, and this is what we have here. So these are the flood profiles. This is for Boneyard. If we keep going down, eventually, I'm looking here on the right side of the sheet, we'll get to Sangamon. There we go. Okay. Now the next move is I'm actually going to jump back over to the GIS, and here's why. As I look at the flood insurance study, it tells me that State Highway 47 or Division Street occurs right here, and I'm going to use that as my landmark. And the reason I do that is because this property is right along 47, or near 47, I should say. So for simplicity, I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to go and I'm going to interpolate. I'm actually going to find the distance from Route 47 to this property. In order to do that, you're going to go distance, add measurements. You can't do this in all GIS, but most different distances, or most GIS you can. And that's going to be good enough. So this tells me it's 975.92, a very, very, very exact measurement based on sort of kind of rounding it in here. So we're at 975 feet from the center line of Division Street, because I'm not sure exactly where that's at. I'm going to say the center line to the center of the property, 975 feet. Okay, well here's Division Street. Now we come down and we look. See, this is each one of these. No, each one of the boxes that highlighted or the bold is stream distance above the limit of the detailed study. So this is 2,000 feet. There are 10 boxes in here, so that means every one of these is 200 feet. So let's go back up. Okay, I was 975 feet away from Division Street, so I'm going to go roughly 900 feet. Well, here's a couple. Here's my 175 plus or minus. So I'm 175 feet away. So I've got to go 5 boxes total from the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here's where my property is. Now I come down to these profiles, and I'll jump back there in just a second. Let's look at the legend. 0.2 annual chance of flood, that's a 500-year flood, what we typically refer to as a 500-year flood. It's not really what it is, but it's an easy way to state it. The BFE is based on this one here, right here, the 1% annual chance, or what some people would call the 100-year flood. Here we have a 50-year flood, 10-year flood in the stream bed. Okay, so let's get back to our spot. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right here, right in the middle. Go down to the 100-year flood, and it crosses, you know what, I'm going to say this line right here. My property crosses this line, so this one was particularly easy. Come over, we're looking at this line. Now we're between 680 and 690. Each one of these should be a foot, I believe, so 81, 82, 83. Here's our 683, and that matches up really, really well with everything that we're seeing here. We see you have a 683. I could have used this, as it turns out, but it's been my experience that with the elevation needs to be somewhere to the 10th, and I didn't want to interpolate and say this was 683 even. We could have gone interpolated between cross sections E and F, and we probably would have found the same thing. But ultimately here, our base flood elevation for this property is going to be 683 feet. Now we can put that in the flood cert right there.